morning. Oh, where'd you guys go? There you are. Good morning. Hey, Julie. Hey, Justine. Ooh. All right. Welcome. So this morning is going to be kind of fun. I'm going to be sharing some stories with you guys, and I'm also going to be bringing the cat out of the bag and channeling some messages for those of you who have questions or desiring clarity that are just really strong on your heart. So if you have anything that you're feeling like you want to ask or comment on, do it. And hey, Kelly. Hey, everybody. Hey, Todd. And I will be responding to those. I'll be answering those as we move along here. Hey, Deanna. Hey, Tyler. Hey, look at everybody. All right, so good morning. It's bright and early, and this morning I jumped on Facebook and I saw someone, you guys have probably seen them, right? They're doing like readings online and they're drawing cards for people and they're channeling. And I got this hit that was like, first of all, there's some like selling of the snakeskin oil thing going on, and it becomes like a magician thing, right? Like this channeling and this intuition. And part of my goal, my heart, my intention is to really demystify spiritual gifts. And that sounds weird, but what happens is we make them so rare and so potent and so like on a pedestal that we make it tricky for ourselves to access our own. And it's time for that to stop. So that's part of the heart of this message today, this morning. So I want to share with you guys a very powerful story. It's a little bit emotional. A couple of you know that about 4 months ago, my grandma passed away. And a week before she passed away, I got this really strong impression, intuition. And everybody's intuition shows up in different ways. Some people it's a knowing, some people it's a voice, some people it's an idea or like a picture in your head. But I got this really strong intuitive hit that just said, call your grandma. And many of you saw this story, but I didn't call her that day, and I kept putting it off. And every day I was like, call her, call her, call her, call her, call her. So finally, on this day, I decided I'm going to put it on my list, on my to-do list. I usually pick 6 core things that get to happen every day as like my top priorities. And she was like number 3. Like it was really important that I call her that day. And I didn't call her that day. Hey Cassandra, hey Betty. I got wrapped up in some other stuff and I didn't call her. And that night at 6:30 when my dad called me and his voice was serious, I just knew. I was like, she's gone. And he just said, and she hadn't been sick, you guys. Thanks, Judy, for the cue. I'll be getting to that in a minute. She hadn't been sick. Nothing, there was no indication that she would be passing or that anything was going to be going on. And so it was really, really out of the blue. And she died. And I didn't get to talk to her. I didn't get to, have that last conversation. And it was intense, right? To fill into that space. Like I talked yesterday, you guys, you get to allow yourself to feel through it so you can come out on the other side. And on the other side, the reframe, you guys, was part of it. I got a really clear message was go live and tell people about this story. Because I know this and I can feel this and sense this. This is why it was like, go live this morning. There are several of you on here who've had intuitive hits about something you get to do in your life. Maybe it's end a relationship. Maybe it is to move. Maybe it is to start a business. Maybe it is to reach out and connect with a certain person. And you've received these intuitive hits, but you haven't acted on them still. And we use procrastination as a way to kind of quiet the intuition, like I did with my grandma, which is like, I'm going to call her later, right? And a lot of people will tell you that you can't run out of time. You can. Okay? Time is a thing. And there are opportunities that change. And it's all perfect. And, these are the things that we get to feel into to keep living our lives and not feel completely consumed by the fact that I received a really strong intuition to call my grandma and I didn't. because I could have shared that story with all of you and encouraged you to follow your intuition with having called her and then having her pass away and saying, I'm so glad I followed the intuition. So either way, the gift and the message gets out there on the planet. But in one version of it, I got to say goodbye to my grandma. And in the other version, I got to fill through and learn through that lesson without getting to have that final sweet conversation, right? And we always want one more. We always want more hug, one more conversation. And I hope you guys are feeling into this message right now. A lot of you are delaying and putting something off with a story of eventually, someday I will. And the message that's really coming through, you guys, is to know that yes, you're not a bitch to time. And yes, there is such a thing as divine timing. And there are opportunities that you do miss. There are windows of time in which you can create something like that final conversation with my grandma. And yes, I've connected with her in the spirit realm. And yes, I've had conversations and it's been beautiful. And the opportunity to speak to her one more time in the flesh did leave. It did pass. Okay? So please hear me and feel me as I say this, that following your intuition is the key to living a magical life. Thank you, everyone who's just now joining us. In just a minute, I'm going to be taking a couple of questions and channeling some insight for all of you this morning after kind of this story kind of concludes itself. So if you have any additional questions or thoughts, be sure you're posting them because I'll be going back through. We have a question from Judy we're going to be getting to in just a second. So some of you have heard portions of this story, and I'm just going to share it with you for the purpose of you seeing intuition in action. So I had that experience with my grandma 4 months ago, and I got really, really committed to no longer ignoring those impulses, those insights. And of course, I'm not perfect at it. There are times when I talk myself out of things. But this last weekend at my retreat, we had a truly magical experience. And that's the only way I can describe it, as cheesy and corny as magical sounds, right? It's like, oh, what does that even mean? That's so in the air. Truly it was. There are no words. And one of the components that made the retreat so magical was the private chef that we had who came. And I didn't tell anyone about this till near the end of the retreat, but I hired our chef completely on intuition. I never met this individual. He did not have a fancy website. He did not have testimonials. He did not have any credentials really outside of his wife saying, he's really good, right? And of course, like, that's like me being like, my kid's an amazing artist. And I like put their finger painting on the fridge. How do you know, right? If it's legit because she loves him and adores him. So to her, his cooking is like next level. I just had this intuition, you guys, and that's all I can say. It was just this, do this. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So when I met up with him for the first time, this is the night before the retreat. He was in kind of a funky space. He was experiencing some anxiety, and he was actually acting out in an addiction that he'd been trying to overcome for quite some time. So I meet him and I see this happening and I'm like, fuck, what did I just do? This is the night before the retreat, and are we about to have a complete cycling down weekend of addiction and destruction? And for example, you guys, when I was sent the catering contract, his company's logo is a skull wearing a chef's hat. Yeah. So you can see how the logical, reasonable side of my brain is like, no. What are you doing? Do not hire this person to do a transformational retreat. But I just knew in my being, it was like, do it. Yes, Nichelle, that's exactly what it was like. What am I doing? Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Sue, there you are. Sue, lady, I have been feeling into your energy for like 4 days. The whole time I was at the retreat, your name kept coming up for me. I'm not even messing with you. Yeah, I'm being serious. So back to my story. I just knew something we get to do. That night, we're at our Airbnb. It's like 1 a.m, and the chef brings up this idea that he wants to go see this museum the next day. And I didn't really pay too much attention to the reason why. He just said he'd always wanted to do it. And I think he might have told me why, but I kind of just skimmed over the surface of it. Like, oh yeah, whatever, it'll be cool. And the next day, we're on the way to the museum. And you guys, I'm not much of a museum person, honestly. I'm like, beach, shopping, museum, depends on the museum. So this museum was the USS Midway, which is a big aircraft carrier ship that is in the harbor. And I had literally zero desire to go at all. I was about to do a 3-day retreat. We had a lot of things we still got to get in order, needed, get in order, whatever. Positive creation language, insert there. And I felt like my head was a million different directions. There was a lot of other things I wanted to be doing besides going to a museum. Again, this voice was like, go, you get to go to this museum. I was like, all right, I promised that I was not going to fuck around with this and I was just going to follow my intuition. So I did. And we went to this museum, and as we're driving there, I turn around and look in the back, and our chef is back there, and he just has tears rolling down his cheeks. And I just felt this really strong reassurance or validation or affirmation that this was what was meant to be happening. We got there, and I asked, I said, why are you so emotional? And he just said, this is something I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. I've wanted to do this, and my dad served on this ship during Nam. And I didn't know at that time much of his story or his history. I didn't even know that his dad was no longer living. And these are all things, you guys, that came after the fact. I followed the intuition, and then after the fact, I understood why. Sometimes, you guys, our intuition asks us to do crazy stuff that doesn't even make sense. Why would I hire someone I've never met from some remote city in Wyoming who'd never catered this type of an event in this type of a setting? I'd never even seen any of his food other than his wife saying, oh, he's really, really great. There was no indication that this was going to be a good move at all. At all. But I just followed it. So we go on this tour of the museum. It was absolutely incredible. His dad worked in the boiler room, which is like deep in the belly of this ship. And there's a lot of beautiful synchronicities and symbolism in the fact that we got to dig down to the belly of this ship. Like, just keep digging to find this place. And when we got to the very bottom, we were in the engine room. And the minute we got there, I just felt like this presence. And Troy, the chef, just walked around touching everything, just like the walls. And you could tell he was just really overcome with emotion. He could feel his dad, and he just walking around touching everything. And I sat there in that moment, and it was just kind of surreal. And I realized I was getting to witness a very monumental, healing, cleansing experience for a beautiful man because I followed my intuition. And then, the miracles don't stop there. The coincidences don't stop there, of course. We meet the guy that's down there, and he's a vet from Nam who served in a boiler room. What are the chances, right? And so our chef got to have a picture, and it was so magical. And then we left, and we went on to the retreat. And again, I had no idea if he was going to be a good cook at all. I had no idea. But when I say he exceeded my expectations, 100%. Every meal, the artistic love he put into every single plate was beautiful. And it just got better and better as the weekend went on. He put so much love into it. It was truly next level. Next level. And later that night, our chef called his sister to tell her that he got to go tour the USS Midway. And she said, do you have any idea what day it is? He said, no. And she said, today is the 19th anniversary of Dad's passing. What are the chances, right? What are the chances that I would feel in tune to host a retreat this weekend in this city, follow my intuition to hire this chef, and to follow the intuition to go to this museum, to create this transformational healing experience, and to be the catalyst in that. What are the chances? And when you understand the power of intuition, you realize the chances are 100. Of course, this is what happened. Hey, Samantha, hey, Valerie, hey, everyone joining. It was truly, truly beautiful. So the heart of this message that I want you guys to be hearing today is that you just get to follow your intuition to create magic in your life. And those things that you've been putting off, or that you've been justifying, or that you've been hesitating, like, I'm going to stay in this relationship because this or until this, and you keep delaying and putting it off, there are opportunities that be missed, right? If I wouldn't have had our chef come, he would not have had that experience. And maybe in a year from now, on that anniversary, something else aligns, but I would have missed the opportunity to feel the emotional, intuitive, divine reward of standing in a room where hundreds of men have worked and served their country and lived their lives and missed their wives and missed their kids and given up their lives. And I would have missed that. You guys, there are windows of opportunity. And I'm not saying this message to scare you into action, but I want to communicate the truth that you get to follow it when it speaks to you. Time frame does matter. And the story you have in your head justifying your procrastination, justifying staying in this shitty situation, justifying whatever, is just that. It's just complete bullshit. That said, I'm going to open it up to any questions or comments people have, and just give you a little insight from this yummy vibe right here. So I'm going to go back up to Judy. Had a beautiful question. How do you navigate owning your genius in the face of people getting offended? So one of the things that is coming through about this is realizing that when you're owning your genius, truly owning it all the way, people getting offended is really, really rare. So there's a difference between owning your genius and owning your personality. So for example, I've done a lot of lives. You guys have seen me and followed me for some time. And in the past, I attracted quite a bit more trolls than I do now. And for a while, it was sort of this martyr complex story, victim of like, oh yeah, people are just gonna have issues with me, whatever, I don't care. And there's also moments for pause and reflection, realizing that I am the source of my experience. And if I'm attracting a large quantity of trolls or negative feedback, there's a reason. I went live, I think a week ago now, and bawled my eyes out and had snot running all over my face. Give me a 1 in the comments if you were there to witness that. And I was bawling, you guys, and I was saying something. And again, I did that live totally based on intuition. I did not want to do that live. And I thought it was going to damage my reputation. I thought this might destroy my business. I had no idea what was going to happen. But I followed my intuition anyways, and I did it. And you guys, I had about 50 people on live the entire time. That's a lot of people. And it went on to get a lot more views. And I had 0 trolls, 0 negative feedback. So sometimes we think we're in our genius, we think we're in our gift, but we're just scratching the surface. Most of the time, even if people don't like it, they can sense that you are fully aligned and fully authentic. So it's typically a reflection, right? Like my trolls were a reflection. And so yeah, that's what I would say. That's the answer. There's a difference between personality and genius. And there are intuitive ways to say and approach things to massage people into opening their minds and their hearts in a way that makes sense. Sometimes if we come right at people in a really intense way, they can't hear what we're saying because we've come at it in a way that's super intense. So no matter what, if you're really in your intuition, and again, sometimes, you know, what maybe is meant to happen is they're meant to get triggered and we get to release that. The number one thing is following that intuition, coming from a really centered place, not just like, this is my genius, this is my gift, but this is what I am intuiting I get to do with it in this situation. And then once you're doing that, once you're really feeling and knowing like this is what I'm feeling inspired to do in this situation, the next step, you guys, is to surrender and release the results. When I hired this chef, I knew I was just following my intuition. Who knows why? It could have been that he was meant to have a spiral weekend and, you know, sleep on a bench in a park. And, you know, me and my assistant were meant to just kind of see how badass we are and just make things work and flow regardless of, you know, that situation. Who knows, right? So what we get to do is channel, get in tune, get centered, and then from that space, make our decisions. And then once we do, we get to surrender the results. And that part can sometimes be difficult. Thank you. That's a beautiful question. I'm going to scroll through and see if we have any other questions. If you guys have anything coming up, go ahead and post. I've got about room for 1 or 2 more questions. Yes, this food was amazing. Spot on. Thank you. Hey, Carly. Judy. I love you, Judy. It was a beautiful question. All right. Oh, here we go. I had someone say to me once, ideas are energy. The idea came to you. It's full of energy. And if you don't do something with it, it will move on to someone who will. Yeah, there is some truth to that for sure. When you have a dabbling personality, how do you get clear on direction? The biggest thing is if you are in any zone, guys, this is like huge coming through, okay? If you're in any zone of self-criticism or being wrong, in any sort of wrongness or judgment of self, you will immediately, it's like putting a metal plate over your head, you'll be unable to hear intuition. So, Jessica, if you're ever coming from a space of being a dabbler is wrong or bad or less than, it's going to be really difficult for you to get clear and hear the next step. Almost impossible. So the first step is always like self-love and I'm okay as I am. My gifts, my genius, my personality, my past, my present, all of this is okay. I'm okay and I love myself and it's all perfect. Like really getting centered in that space, then it will open up the channel and you'll know the next step to move forward. There is a lie out there, you guys. Go ahead and give me a 2 in the comments if you would label yourself as a dabbler or somebody who's like a jack of all trades, that you have a lot of things you're passionate about and you love. Let me know below. Guys, there is a story and a lie out there that it's not okay and that you have to just pick one thing. And I call bullshit. There are times when it's great to channel into one area or the other, but the example I used over the retreat weekend is The Rock. So The Rock originally started as a professional football player. And that didn't pan out, so he went into professional wrestling. And then eventually he went into the entertainment business. You guys, he's an actor and a singer, right? He did the voice of Maui on Moana. And he sang that whole amazing You're Welcome song and all of that. So he has many talents. We're multifaceted beings, and we're going to evolve and shift into different things in our life. And giving yourself permission and coming from a place of okayness is the key to receiving the inspiration to know the step that you get to take next moving forward. What if you struggle knowing what your genius is? How can you find that? Okay, one of the ways that you can find that is get around somebody who's in their genius. When you get around somebody who's living in their purpose, it immediately starts to activate you into your greatness, and it starts giving you permission to do the same. The next thing that I would say, and this is like total blatant pitch, do a soul print reading session with me. Like, guys, this is my gift, is really seeing people's gift, their greatness, their talents, and their blocks. So, you know, that's huge. All right, I'm going to do one more question if we have them, and then I'm going to get to pop off here. Oh, we're good. All right, so that wraps us up, my beautiful beings. Thank you for being on here. And my challenge and my encouragement to you is to go do that thing you've been feeling inspired to do for quite some time. Maybe it's take a belly dancing class. Maybe it's, you know, end a relationship, hold a tough conversation, go on a trip, launch a new business, launch a new program, whatever that is. I encourage you and challenge you to go do that and then come back to this video. I want to hear what that is. And maybe if you want for accountability right now, you can post in the comments, I know this is what I meant to do and I'm going to go do it, and use it as accountability. Because this is how change happens, you guys. This is how we live in magic. Just like that experience. It's when we like remove the shit that's keeping us from being in tune, receive the insight, and then act on it, and then surrender the results. It's a 4-step process, okay? Remove the bullshit keeping you from being connected. 2, receive the inspiration, the intuition. 3, act on it. 4, surrender the results. Mwah. I love you guys so much. Make it a great day.